Hey guys, my name is Hirsch, not Harsh, even though it's spelled that way. It's an Indian name. Indian names don't have vowels and consonants, so yeah. As it states, I work as an Android developer at NAB, which is a bank. There's also a different NAB, which is a Indonesian government authority, and oftentimes you get reviews about that particular app for our app, and we take them because, oftentimes our reviews are not complimentary. So the NAB app is a consumer banking app. It's quite a large environment, I suppose. We've got about 1.4 million Android users, so we've got to worry about scale quite a bit. And we're using Kotlin now, and a lot of cool stuff happens. So yeah, check us out. When I'm not at NAB, I actually develop indie apps in both Android and iOS natively. I'm a huge advocate of developing apps natively in each of those, ecosystems. I guess you forsake a bit of development time, but testing's quite well supported, and generally when you develop apps, you've got to worry about the whole life cycle of shipping the app, so building and shipping the app. I'm on Twitter, so if you want to connect, it's @overg. I've got a few posts on my site as well about stuff I'll be doing, my apps on embryo/apps. Before we start, so this particular slide is actually trying to fix a particular problem, and that is a lot of people, when they go to GDG, there's a slide deck and they take photos of slides. There's a lot of code in this particular presentation, and so to be able to, copy and paste code, you can go to that tiny URL thing, and yeah, it's like copy pasting friendly. Also, almost all the code excerpts are pictures. I didn't really write any code, I kind of lifted it from the Android website. So you won't be able to copy paste it, and it's also in Kotlin. But what I've done is all the code on the blog is actually Java. So, it depends on what you want to do, I guess. Cool, so what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to start with a demo, and hopefully the demo will work. Normally my demos don't work, so we'll see. I want to start with a demo because a lot of people ask me exactly what the talk's about. So I just want to start with it so you have some context in terms of what exactly in-app billing is. And then we'll ask some existential questions, the whats and hows of in-app billing, obviously. An example in-app billing app. So I've got a couple examples, and you've probably used at least one of the apps already. So you'll be able to put two and two together, hopefully. Now, whenever we add a new API on an Android app, we do a bunch of stuff on the Google Play console. We do a bunch of stuff on the Android side, so pull in dependencies, run a build, add permissions. So we'll go through all of that setup, and then we'll also go through some code excerpts and be able to actually work in our billing there. And obviously, we're all really good developers here, and we only ship high quality apps. So testing is a huge part of that. So we'll go through quickly testing. How to test in-app billing in an app. And eventually we'll go to some questions also. So my wife's actually in the audience here, and she's a ESL teacher. She's right there. An ESL teacher is an English as a second language teacher. And she wanted me to make an app about Australian slang. And it's quite a quirky app. I know it looks really funny, but it's actually done well. At one stage, at one stage it was trending, and I think it's because someone tweeted something about Australian slang. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel. So it went #1 on the travel and local categories, and I made $8. There's also a iOS app. Unfortunately, that one's paid because I hadn't worked out in-app billing back then. But there's a free app that has ads in it. So we're going to talk about this app in terms of in-app billing. The Android app's free, and it's got ads, and to remove ads, you've got to pay. And you know, so in-app billing really, I guess in essence, is how to make money out of your apps without having to do a lot of really complex stuff. Cool. So that's a cat. That's an existential cat. It's asking what is an app billing. So we'll go to that now. So back in the day, before in-app billing existed, people had to write two apps. One was a free app, if you follow a freemium model, where you'd have only a set of, I guess, features. And then to be able to unlock any premium features, you'd have to have another paid app. So that's kind of bad because when people are searching for your app, I guess Google indexes in terms of the context of the app as well as the name of the app. So it's kind of dividing your audiences, and that means that I guess your ratings suffer, and that also kind of counts towards ASO, App Store Optimization. So yeah, having two apps, not great. Obviously discoverability of your app suffers because there's two different apps people are searching for. And yeah, so the in-app billing API, what it lets you do is break down your app into multiple, I guess, premium modules that you can kind of sell to consumers. So yeah, go through a bit of, I guess, monetization. So before in-app billing existed, people used to have to integrate, as far as payments are concerned, payment gateways in their Android apps, and that comes with a lot of, I guess, package. I guess the first thing is you've got to work out how payment gateways work and do a bunch of PCI DSS type stuff. So be able to harden your app to be able to, I guess, make it fit for purpose and not get in trouble with, I guess, regulation. So there's a few types of in-app products. Recurring billing, which is subscription. So if you think about an app called Netflix, which you probably heard about, that's a subscription-based model. You set it up and it keeps recurringly charging your users. We're not going to be talking about that because we're going to be trying to look at the most simple use case because we only really have half an hour. What we are going to be talking about in a second in terms of implementation is the ones-off in-app billing products. So be able to, I guess, unlock one particular item, and that's about it, and how that flow works. I wrote down consumable versus non-consumable. So an example would be my particular app. To be able to remove all ads, you only buy it once, and that's non-consumable. It never gets consumed. It's perpetual. But if you ever play any indie games on your phone, say it's a first-person shooter, then you're going to have to, I guess, buy more ammo at some stage. That's a consumable in-app product because basically what it does is once ammo is consumed, you're able to buy it again. I also kind of forgot in the middle, there's a different kind of in-app product. I don't really want to go into it too much because it's actually not a product. It's one of those annoying ads that comes up when you're playing games, and it makes you watch a video for like 30 seconds, and then that's how you can proceed to your proceed in your game. So yep, we went through that subscription-based in-app billing products. Yep. Implementation. So I don't know about you guys, but the only way I implement things is by having coffee and not being a cat, obviously. So this is really quirky. You can't actually use in-app billing in your app until you follow these particular steps. So under the Google Play console, you've got in-app products. Inside that, you can't actually build any in-app products until you ship an APK. An alpha track APK is okay with the vending billing permission. So you've got to actually build an APK with that permission, ship it to an alpha track, and it can be closed, that's fine. So you're only really shipping it to yourself, and yeah, away you go. Once you've done that, to be able to get paid, you also got to have a vendor account, so your bank details and your tax details. That's optional, but If you don't fill it in, you're not going to get paid. So you need your bank details to be able to pay you, obviously. So the next bit is how to actually configure an in-app product. So for some reason, the once-off products are called managed products in the Play console, but on the Android side, when you're actually building it, it's called in-app, and I don't know why. I think it's weird naming. So you create a managed product, you give it a name, and that's usually just a string, and it generates what's called a string resource SKU that you're going to be using in your app. And go to that in a second. You also give it a description, and the name and description should be really meaningful because they give the user context. So when a user presses buy in their app, that stuff's going to come up. So you've got to be very careful in terms of how you kind of word it, because it's also marketing the in-app product. Cool. Next thing you do is you go to your app and you add the dependency for in-app Biling. At the moment, as it stands, it's at 1.2.2, so I'm using the latest one here. In terms of the SKU, so you've just generated that in your previous step, and you take that string, and then you can either create a build time string resource using your build.gradle at your app level, or you can actually just kind of have a string resource. It's up to you, really. If you want to build apps that use in-app billing for like a debug app, then you can do it at build time, and it will pick the flavor, and then the in-app product that corresponds to that flavor will actually show up. So, you know, there's some merits to that. Also, when you define the res value in your build.gradle, don't forget to escape it, because the second part is so that 01 my first product is actually a string. So you got to escape those quotes. Cool. So now that we've kind of built the dependency, we're able to use the library to be able to do actual billing flows. So there's something called a billing client that the library provides you, and that's kind of your gateway to be able to pull your products as well as to be able to make purchases. So what I envisage you'd end up doing is writing a wrapper around that, and then use it across screens in your app to be able to do whatever. So it obviously runs the billing request, and it's got a nice little convenient builder pattern for you to be able to leverage. And we'll go to the code in one sec in the next slide. What you then do is, first you've got to establish a session with the in-app billing Play Store API. So that callback is done by setting a billing client state listener. And also a purchase updated listener callback. So whenever you make a purchase, that callback comes back. And again, we'll go through that in a sec. So that's some code. I know it's quite a block of code, but if you just kind of focus on the stuff that's highlighted, it's late in it, so obviously this is Kotlin code. You can't initialize it because it's a builder pattern until you actually run the builder pattern. The first thing you said, this is something that I find weird in Kotlin, because you're not really kind of defining it because it's not really given a type. So anyway, so that one is a purchase updated listener. It comes back with either the purchases have been updated successfully or not. And one's a success scenario, the other one's a error scenario. So you're setting it there, and then you're moving on to the billing client state listener. So that's the first thing you're actually doing to be able to, I guess, establish a connection with the billing API in the backend. When it comes back with either on billing setup finished or on billing service disconnected. Obviously, when the billing setup finished, callback comes back, that's when you are able to use the billing API. So in my app, the billing client wrapper is actually a singleton, because the way Google wants you to do this is when you first fire up the app, you're starting a connectivity callback, and also setting the purchase updated listener. At the same time, if like the connectivity isn't there, like if there's no internet, the billing service is connected, callback comes back, you're able to kind of handle the error at the app startup, so you can't let the user proceed. Because you're also querying the backend for getting all available SKUs as well as whatever SKUs the users purchase, because you don't want to show them stuff that they've already purchased, because it will try and initiate a billing flow for something that already exists in the app. So I make it a singleton, and if you use Dagger like everyone else I know, you can provide it at like an app lifecycle level. So just something to kind of optimize, I guess. The second step is, so now that you actually started a connection, the connections actually come back, so it's successful, and you persisted that in your Singleton wrapper. What you can then do is create a SKU list, which is an array list of string, and add all your SKUs. So that's that particular premium upgrade string is what we defined as a resource previously, which is the in-app billing SKU. In this particular example, there's 2 SKUs that we're both adding to the SKU list, and then there's again a convenient builder to be able to build what's called SKU details params. So this is what gets you, I suppose, pricing for your in-app purchases as a list, as well as it gets you a bunch of information around the detail for the SKU. So you can make a nice UI and be able to represent it correctly. Also, it's really important that you do this because if you are selling your app in different countries, you need the localized currency and all that. So, yeah. Now, obviously, you're not going to charge a user for stuff that they've already purchased. So the next step is to be able to query for existing purchases. That's done. So there's 2 different ways of doing that. And this is what I mean. When you look at the SKU type, it says in-app. That's the managed type. So the naming is a bit confusing. This is also something that maybe Android doesn't do as well as iOS, because in iOS, when you have a paid app and the users actually purchase it, the onus is on the user to be able to go restore purchases. And all you do is just create a button, they tap on it, and they can restore their user app ID to be able to restore stuff. So in Android, it's a bit weird because at the start, we're just kind of hammering the user with all these callbacks, and some of them are asynchronous, and so the UX is a bit dodgy. Cool. So the next part is, I guess that. So the first ever time you run it, you have to run it in an asynchronous way because it won't exist. And there's a case that the Play API kind of provides you. So the first ever time, it's asynchronous, and the second time, or any other subsequent times, you can just call it the case callback, and what that does is it provides it to you right away, so you don't have to handle loading states and all that, or even errors. This is the last step for it. So say you've provided a list of in-app purchases and the user wants to buy it. This is how you make money. So all you do is create what's called a billing flow using the billing flow params builder, and you set I guess whatever the SKU is of the thing that the user's tapped, you set that, and then you go build, and then you go launch billing flow. So that last part, launch billing flow, I would liken that to a start activity for result, because in this case you're not really kind of providing it a activity result code, but what happens is it comes up with a bunch of modules to be able to handle states. It abstracts completely the credit card data and all that, and all you do is just use the user's selected preferred payment to be able to payment process to be able to use it and charge the user. So if you're lucky, eventually it will come back as success and you will make money, which is here. So in our first step, we set a purchase updated listener, and that callback actually comes back with obviously either success or error. So you can handle it accordingly. When the user cancels it obviously you can just, actually the in-app API does show a error message, and we'll go to that in a sec. If it comes back as success, then you can handle it accordingly and you can unlock that feature. So again, that's why it's important that it's an app level team that's persisted. In terms of testing, I don't know about you guys, but the only way I test is by being a drunk cat going downstairs. So testing's really easy. I mean, apart from unit tests and instrumentation tests or whatever you do in your current, scenario, because it's going to charge the user, what you can do is create a alpha testers group. They've changed the process here, so actually, even though you add users here, they get an email and then they've got to go in and be able to opt in before they can see stuff. So yeah, just be mindful of that. Now, I said before I was going to do a demo. I've completely forgotten, so I'm just going to go back to it. There's a reason though, because the mirroring's not working as well. I mean, I've got to go mirroring, so just bear with me a moment. Yep, so that's my emulator. At the moment, it's not mirrored. Bear with me a moment, actually. Hopefully you should be able to see what I see. Okay, now I can see the screen. So this is an emulator that I've built with the Play Store API shipped with it. So it's got the Play Store binary. It's already got an account in there. I'm just going to show you guys. So what happens is, for your app, when you add in-app billing, it says in-app purchases in there. So that's the first indication to the user. And then if you go here, you go read more. It shows you all the in-app purchases and how much it costs. So that's localized for every user, obviously, depending on what region they're in. So that's the Play Store listing. I already fired up the app. I better not stay on this too much because the ads are rolling. I don't want to be banned for using production level ads in a demo, and they're in Google, so they're watching. So all you do is go here. So at the moment what it's doing is it's pulled the SKU, the name of the in-app product, and a bunch of description text that I have previously configured in the Play Store. So if I want to go proceed, so this is where it's done the start activity for result team. That's completely abstracted. You're not really having to handle anything to do with payments. The user's actually in control here. So it shows you the cost, cascader, it shows you the payment methods. Now this is, I've got a segue here. So if you want to be able to run promotions for your app, you can create voucher codes using Google Play Console. And you get every quarter about 400 codes. So if you want to just kind of drum up advertising for your app, you can do that here. There's actually a way to be able to automatically provide the promo codes as well. I'm using Play Store, but it's going to take too long to show you guys. So yeah, anyway, you go continue, and then it prompts you for payment methods. I have a little dog, right? And this is his Gmail account, so I'll probably not, I was never going to add like a credit card to it. But anyway, these are the options. I use it as a test account, so he gets like a lot of spam in his email. Yeah. So that's pretty much the demo. I'm just going to go back to it. So that's pretty much the presentation. Is there a question slide? I forgot to remove this.